Our conference continues with a panel discussion format, but first there is a presenter to intro the subject matter on the next evolution in search advertising to be presented by Dan Petrovic. Is a search professional from Brisbane, Australia. After graduating from Griffith University with BS in multimedia, Dan established his own company, Dejan SEO, with focus on data-driven strategic consultancy. He keeps in touch with his academic side by continually researching, testing, and publishing his findings and results in some of the most reputable industry magazines today. When not busy at work, you can find Dan lecturing at universities, seminars, and conferences. No further ado, Dan Petrovic.
Thank you very much. So while we're getting this set up, I think Tof's coming to rescue. My job today is to inspire and ignite a discussion about search, the changes in search, the evolution of search engines, what's coming up, all the interesting things that have happened in the last 10 years and that rapidly developing in the last 2 years, the way that search engines, and Google in particular, are transforming, and offer some glimpses as to what's going to happen. And later on, we're going to start from a rather top-level inspiring talk, and then I'm going to take you into high-level technical stuff. So I hope you guys are ready for some. How many SEOs do we have in the audience? Raise your hand, please. What, 3? All right. If I say things like anchor text, canonicalization, 301, no indexing, Google Webmasters Tools, Google Analytics, Universal Analytics. You guys familiar with those terms? Click-through rate. Come on. Yep, good. So the first formal part in the presentation is going to be about certain things we would like to discuss in the panel. So think about the questions you want to ask. Think about how you're going to mine our experience in the field of search and also search engine optimization. Because when you come back to the office, you should have some interesting clues about what you can do to take it to your advantage. Brilliant. I have my slides up. I'm very happy. Okay. So when Google started in 98, it was a search engine. Plain search engine, nothing exotic about it. And then they became more complex. There was an image search, news search. As the years went by, Google and other search engines tried to keep up, but Google led the front, being a search engine that kept innovating to the point where they became really, really complex. They had all these products. They had Picasa. They had e-commerce. They were starting to get into so many verticals that not even Google themselves understood and knew what they were about. There were so many experimental products, and there was a bunch of money being pumped up. Of course, AdSense. You guys are pouring money, feeding Google with all that AdSense money and AdWords money. Sorry. So all that money went into experiments, and then what happened? Larry Page comes back to Google and goes, "I'm the CEO now. Shut down, shut down, shut down, shut down." And he shut down some 30 products at Google. Why? He sent a memo to all his staff. He said, "We are a single, unified, beautiful product. Across everything we have, it's all one single product. And if you don't get that, you should probably work somewhere else." He said that to his employees, which means Google's very serious about being back to this one single, unified thing. And this, to search marketers and digital marketers in general, is perhaps a problem, because Google now looks elusively simple. It's misleading how simple things are. There's still a search box, there's still the Google logo, we still use it the way we did in '98. But it couldn't be further from the truth, because Google has become a very complex environment, and us as marketers need to understand what happened. So when Google started, they were a link-based search engine. Their entire search engine ranking algorithm was based on how pages link to each other on the web. They look at the link graph, and they map the importance of each page on the web by its interconnectivity. its connections with the other web pages. And then they've come up with a social graph. They've started observing our interactions in the social space. They started looking at Twitter, Facebook, all the other social platforms. And they said, you know what, that's not enough. We're going to build a social network of our own. So they've come up with Google+, identity service for the web, because they only accept real individuals. So they're looking at explicit social graph and implicit social graph. Explicit meaning I'm connected to you directly. That's a direct connection. Implicit, I may have shared content by somebody who's connected to you. Therefore, we might be related. Google's starting to map humanity in form of a social graph, and this is playing a role in the delivery of their search results. And lately what's happened, and you may have started noticing some interesting things on the side of search results, knowledge graph. They're giving you facts about things. And suddenly, search almost stops and answers start. So search is kind of a dying breed, as interesting as it. Google's mission is to provide answers, not search results. They want to give you as many direct answers as possible. So what do we have now? We've got the social graph, we've got the link graph, we've got the knowledge graph. Each on their own are not quite good enough, but Google's got that sweet spot and perfectly balanced search results catered to all sorts of situations given to the users. And remember, it's all about giving answers, not search results. And this is what Google's heading. My mission is to show you glimpses as to what Google's going to be in the next few years. So many things in interplay: location, device, history, social, language you're searching from. All these things are customer results. So what do you expect to see in the future? Imagine you're driving from location A to location B, and search engine is tracking you through you've got your GPS on, you've got data pack, you're using a GPS to go to our new place. And on your way there, search engine anticipates your arrival, and halfway there shows you an ad for a store that you're going to drive past. Contextual advertising at its best. So it's tracking it knows your device, it knows all sorts of things about you, it knows your connections, and now it knows your location, knows your future direction, and it's targeting you based on your travel vector. Imagine that. So another thing that's happening is voice search is already here. The conversational search. How many people here are actually using conversation search? Have you seen that in action and how it works? Not many by the sounds of it. So we're going to show some examples of that. And now we can expect to have results before researching. How is that possible? There's a patent in Google that you might just press a button on your phone or shake your phone or give it a signal, and it'll feel what you may need at that point in time, and it'll give you the answer for it. It's a zero parameter search. You're not even searching, you're getting answers. So how does it work? So natural language processing. Natasha from my office, she's searching, she's saying weather. Google knows where she is, so Google goes, yep. She just said weather. She didn't say Brisbane. But it's saying, taking voice input, getting voice output, saying it's 22 degrees in Brisbane, and here's the weather forecast. It's speaking back to her. It's location aware. And then she says one word. She says Manila. And Google's giving you voice results and printing the results on the screen, but it's not saying, here's some information about Manila. It's giving her weather results. So Google's actually capable of having a continued conversation. You guys should try this, because this is something that's coming up. Search engines are becoming intelligent. That with the knowledge graph, the few neurons are firing up. They're trying to understand the world around themselves. And some exciting things are about to happen. So conversation is adjustable. Last night at the dinner, I gave an example. Try searching this. Say into your Google now, say, how old is Jesus? And the search engine will say, Jesus Christ was 33 years old when he died. That's from knowledge graph. Then what I said, who was his dad? That's a bit of a funny question, because he technically didn't have a father, but the answer came, Joseph. But it's not the answer, it's the fact that I said, who was his dad? I didn't say who was Jesus' dad. I said, who was his dad? Google remembered the previous search and continued discussion with me. He said, Joseph. I said, where was he born? He said, Bethlehem. He knows what we're talking about. So think about how search is evolving and what you as marketers are going to do about that. So here's a tablet. Here's what Google Now looks like. So it knows you're currently at a certain point in life, you have a calendar item booked, you've got some Gmail conversations, he knows a lot of things about you. Gordana from my European office, she's not even searching anything. She just looks at her tablet and it's already giving her the search results. She didn't search. It's saying 30 minutes to Belgrade Airport. It knows she's traveling to London. That's what's coming. And not just that, this is a list of things that Google now is capable of giving you. So searchless results. So how do we deal as an agency in a growing complexity? Well, of course, we have to be data-driven. So question, perhaps we can discuss this during the panel. Where do you get your data? Analytics, Google Webmasters tools. Anyone works with offline data? What do you do? What are your sources of data, and what do you do with it? How do you make it actionable? How do you measure what you do? How do you measure your performance? How do you calculate ROI? Is ROI built into your strategy? Are you being strategic enough? Are you learning enough about the business that you work for? Are you learning about the main stakeholders? Do you have enough elements there to be able to create a strategy? Because strategy is not a plan that you write up and it's like 10 pages thick or 50 pages and you just put it in a drawer. It needs to be an action item, action plan. So here's the part where we go, boom, high-level technical details. So I hope you're ready. So here's Lana. She's facing a complex task. She doesn't know how to deal with this because she's got 30,000 keywords and she needs to decide where to put her marketing budget. 30,000 keywords. How do you decide what's worthwhile your time? Here's one data source. I'm giving you an example. I'm not telling you this is the only way to do this. So get our data. We verify our website in Google Webmasters tools. We go to search queries. We click on filters. We select a date range or a specific country. And Google gives us, what do they give us? Search queries. They give us the impressions. We get the volume of searches. We get the number of clicks. We get the click-through rates from the search results. And we get the average position of the keyword when people typed it into organic search. And this is the type of data that we can work with. And I'm going to show you how we did this. So we ask ourselves, in our research methodology, how to do this. What are the phrases with good search volume? Yeah, common sense. How well do I rank currently? Where am I placed for these keywords? What's my average CTR? How can I outrank, and can I outrank the website above me? Is it feasible? How much more traffic would I get, and what financial impact would it have? So you may see studies like this. This is ours. We've done this. This is what happens when you're top. This is what happens at the bottom. But the thing is, each one of these percentages is different for different websites, and these percentages are even different for different keywords. So here's a little exercise for us. You've got two products. You've got a marketing budget. They give you $50,000. You need to make the most of it by doing certain things in the organic search. So one has 1,200 impressions, one has 600 impressions. We've got 120 clicks for each. Click-through rate for one is 10%. The click-through rate for the other one is 20%. Average position 4.3, average position 9.1. Same price, same profit margin, conversion rate 1%. Which shoe would you push? Which shoe would you put your marketing budget on? Which product would deliver better? I think I've done this exercise with 4 people in different parts of the world, in Poland, in Australia, and everyone says this should. It's a trick question. We don't have enough data to make a decision. We're missing a data source here. Well, somebody said, well, what's my margin? Let's assume the margin is exactly the same. So what do? I make an observation. The click-through rate on one of my shoes is 10% on the basis of position 4.3. And we're going to highlight why is this 4.3, because there's no absolute position in Google anymore. If you search from a mobile device, from desktop, if you search from Melbourne or from Manila, or if you search from New York, your results will be different. But the rank 4 average is 18%. So we need to adjust for this norm deviation for this specific phrase. So what are we doing here? Data sources, Majestic SEO, they give you the competitiveness score. One metric that tells you how competitive is the phrase that you're trying to target. So competitiveness of this phrase for this shoe is 20. Competitiveness of this phrase is 80. The phrase potential is 200 extra clicks. So if we move one position up, we'll get 200 extra clicks. That's not so good. Not as good as this one, 500 extra clicks. But the competitiveness of this phrase is a lot higher. What does it matter if you're going to get so many extra clicks when you're not going to win this position? So what you do is you merge these two values together. This is tweakable value. You can adjust it up and down until you find the sweet spot, and you have a single score. So now what you can do, you can scale this research. You can work with a huge amount of data. You can work with millions of products, with millions of keywords. And you can simply sort your table in the order of potential score. All these metrics melted into one single number that you can sort, and then you go top down. You pluck all your easy wins, your quick return on investment, and you work from there. Of course, you can even apply the conversion rate and the value to all these products, and you can assign a money value, because this, what triggers interests, now we're talking money. You can create reports which show exactly the commercial outcome, the financial benefits of if you focus, instead of pushing this, you push that. So this is the type of thinking that modern marketers need to think about. So we actually created a tool, phraseresearch.com, which won an award actually for Australian innovation in marketing. And so making decisions. We have a complex environment. We have even TVs are connected online these days. So we've got devices, we've got people at different locations searching, we've got organic, paid, local, all sorts of search verticals. It's becoming very complex. So how do we deal with this? How do we decide what's going to be in our marketing mix? Are we using universal analytics? Are we using both offline and online data? What's our content strategy? How do we integrate social? What do we do? Well, you need to start tracking, you need to start measuring. And one thing that was already touched on in a keynote presentation, attribution modeling. How many people here are actually using attribution modeling right now? Clearly not enough. So that's one thing that I'd like to leave you with if you want to research something in more depth. That's attribution modeling. Basically, how do you understand how much importance to attribute to each channel that's contributed to the sale at the end of the day? And finally, as agencies, we need to be sparing of how we spend our clients' money. If we're working in-house, we need to be mindful of how we utilize our budget, because resources are never unlimited. Sometimes it feels like, search, PPC, it just doesn't fit in your marketing mix. So what do? We can't just put it on top or, just as an extra, an afterthought. It has to be integrated. So the best thing to do that is to get people trained up and understanding each one of the marketing verticals and make sure that everyone does. So in SEO sense, because we're search engine optimization specialists, what we've done, we created a big session with everyone included. We've done a separate session, follow up with a PR team, with social team, with PPC, with the IT guys, with content producers. And we sat down with every single department after the main meeting and decided to chat about their work and how they can add value to what they're doing on a daily basis, and then create a policy that's known company-wide, so everyone is contributing to the common goal. Well, that's the end of the presentation. I think we're good to start with a panel. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Dan. And at this point, we'd like to also have other experts join the panel. Anton Sheker, and I think it'll be moderated. Yes, we could give Anton a round of applause as well. And this will be moderated by Tof Salcedo. And we can give him a warm round of applause. I know people are starting to get hungry, but we have this panel discussion, and then we have one more talk before lunch. Are you all okay for microphones? Are there 3 there? Well, okay. Dan has one.
Hello.
Off
Okay,
you
good
go.
morning, everyone. Again, I would just like to take this opportunity to express our happiness that finally, we are, as an industry, we are giving attention to search marketing. We're trying to understand how it works, how it is evolving, and how it can actually impact our bottom line. So now, we should start by maybe asking Anton about his feedback or reaction about Dan's presentation, not really whether he agree or disagree about the presentation, because it is what really is happening. maybe his thoughts of the efforts of Google becoming a better search engine. That is, like, according to Larry Page, they want to have a product, a single unified, beautiful product across everything. So can you just give us a thought whether all these changes and updates, is it really making Google a better search engine?
Okay, good morning, everybody. Let me make it simple. What I understand, for me now, it's what Google is doing is indexing you, the things you like, the things you do, the things you buy, the places you go. So what it does is it forwards everything, makes a timeline of you. So for marketers, for brands, this is a good thing because you actually know when to engage the person. What else? And then for the attribution model, basically what it does is it gives you, it makes the science, it's a science for the whole budgeting thing. For all the channels, you budget, let's say for social, you budget 50%. For email, you budget 30. What it does, what analytics does, is actually putting a science to the whole thing to find out how much people spend, how much people, where they go to find out what they're actually doing online. This is I heard a reaction from the back earlier that it sounds scary. It actually is, because once you're online, you connect everything about you, so they can actually predict what you'll be doing for the next 24 hours and for the rest of your life.
But yeah, for the users, it may be scary, but for marketers, about brands, about businesses,
It's a dream come true.
yes, with all this Google Now, search engine being conversational, being adjustable, and then generating results without you searching for it, how can brands or businesses can directly benefit from these updates and evolution then?
The key, like in anything, is proper integration of your message throughout all your channels. So search, of course, is of huge importance. It delivers that step in the conversion process. But in an environment, well, I have to say, if you're in an information business, you have a little bit of a problem, because what happened to the weather websites now? You say weather and Google gives you results. So there are some businesses that are in true jeopardy because of the advancements. Remember those websites where you can go to look up your IP address? What's my IP address? That's what's myip.com. What do they do now? You type in IP address or IP or my IP in Google, and it just prints your IP address. It just gives it to you because they know what it is. Your conversions, translation websites, they're done. So yes, some verticals are in trouble, but how do we tackle things like when Google displays knowledge graph results? Knowledge graph results are going to complement search. They're not going to replace it. They're usually being triggered for informational searches. So for example, if you're selling Nike shoes, if you type in Nike, yes, you're going to get that knowledge graph on the side, and Google Now might go give you this straight result. But if somebody uses a search query that's geared towards, if it's not navigational, it's not informational, it's geared towards a purchase, they're going to understand that Google's getting pretty sophisticated at understanding user intent. So you need to make sure that you're across all these platforms. How do you enter knowledge graph? Does anyone have an idea? How do you get that bar on the side? You know, that little information. Where's that source of data coming from? Well, for once, Wikipedia is one source that they use. Wikipedia, a frightening situation. Anyone can go in and edit your company details in there, and that's going to display as a fact to all the people searching. Think about that.
All right, thanks, Dan. How about Anton? What are your thoughts about that? How can brands benefit from all of this
Actually,
improvement
one
and
of the
evolutions?
advantages now is that spam is gone. Everything is filtered. The relevancy of the content is actually there. So brands are already advantaged because they already have established themselves. So that's the biggest advantage for the brands. For the small companies, it gets harder and harder. It's at the end, it's just really the big companies that will survive.
Do we have a question from the audience? Okay, if none, let me ask another question. Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay, she was asking, how can you tell if you're targeting the proper keywords? And maybe it's good to add, in this time and age where absolute ranking or absolute position is no longer happening. That is, if you search from a different geolocation, you search from a different device, you'll be getting a different search results. So maybe it's good that you can, aside from us telling us how can we determine if we're targeting the proper keywords, can you please also give us an idea what are the proper goals, metrics, and KPIs that we can set for our search marketing campaigns?
Well, here's one example. I love to integrate all my sources of data. For example, if I'm building an SEO campaign, I might look at things like keywords from my pay-per-click campaign and look at what's converting. So heavily reliant on things like Google Analytics goal conversion, because you might have a large search volume for a particular keyword, but that keyword is not leading to sales, not leading to conversions. So for us, it's important to understand that the keyword actually converts at the end, and it's all about prioritizing your work. Like earlier from my presentation, I showed an example how we determine the competitiveness of the phrase in organic search. Similar things can be done for PPC. So integration, balance of the difficulty, and whether you have this type of content that suits this type of keyword. So that's probably a good starting point. So what sort of how do you go from keyword research? How do you just pick random keywords that a client gives you, or? Are we talking e-commerce? Okay. I'll give. So, what are the other strategies, other sources? Here's one interesting example.
Yeah, sure.
People don't realize the type of, and this is what I wanted to discuss with you guys. The sources of data. Where do you get data to make actionable decisions? To make things easier for decision making. So, one thing that people constantly forget is if you have a search box on your website, people are on your site and they're doing internal searches. This tells a lot. This tells a lot. So if you're actually capturing the search queries within your site, that's an additional source of data. So you've got, your planner. You've got your what used to be the keyword tool. We've got Google Webmasters tools. We've got analytics, and you can even dig through your log files And you can utilize internal website searches to find what good keywords are.
Same. I'll give you an example. What we do, our client is Australian-based also, in Perth. The keywords, they submit the keywords, the usual, I give them the data, and then I give my own, because most of the time, they just like to do what they think is correct. Sometimes you have to mix the keywords because of the quality. You can have traffic, but it's still good to have quality, especially if you do PPC. Your ads go haywire if your quality is so bad. I use the Webmaster, and a lot of people don't use the Bing Webmaster. You have to compare different keywords from different tools, match the quantity against the quality. Eventually, you'll come out, you streamline all the keywords, you come out with a good list, and then test. What I noticed also, each month, the keywords, sometimes, let's say the quality score is, let's say, 6 or 5. The next month, it drops down to 4 or 3. So you really have to continue testing each keyword. SEO is never ending.
Right. That's right. Again, testing, and then make sure that you always check on your analytics, check out which one is actually generating traffic conversions for you, and then go ahead and tweak your campaigns. So any questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm Paul from Asia Bay. My question would be, can you share us what next generation would be for, especially for an e-commerce website, especially when you have so many products or SKUs?
What do you mean by next generation? I mean, how will the search engine treat the e-commerce businesses, or?
I think I understand the
Okay.
question. So you've got a bunch of SKUs, and it's this. You've got what's your source of the products? Is it from the manufacturer? The
Yes.
data for the product. Yeah.
Most likely to be in-house in the company. Yep.
In the company, so you write your custom titles and descriptions for all products.
Basically,
Oh,
yes.
Okay, so that's a good thing. That's a head start already in what most people are doing, because what we're finding is that people typically get all their, say, how many products are we dealing with? How many SKUs?
Around 2,000.
2,000. So that's a fair amount of writing to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm having problem when it comes to most of my when it comes to search. Other companies or e-commerce website are getting my images or pictures of coming from my site. So
Yeah.
can you suggest something?
Have you tried DMCA?
Yep.
Not yet.
Not yet. It's probably the most direct way to handle people breaching your copyright and getting
File
your
a
content.
takedown notice.
All right.
They have to comply. There's
Okay.
no way they can get around that.
Yeah. One problem we have is that most online stores, e-commerce shops, they have very similar, exactly the same information. So one thing I encourage people to do is to dig deeper into the data and try to make their product descriptions and the user experience richer on the landing pages where your products are. So you're saying, what's that next evolution? What do we do with that? I'll give you one example of what we've done. We looked at the internal data that the e-commerce store had, and the client wasn't aware that they can utilize that. So price trends, for example, the change in price over time for this particular product. We introduced this chart on the product page, and we maybe use natural language to describe the situation and maybe recommend now is a good time to buy. So that's one. Customer recommendations, ratings, user-generated content. I know user-generated content is a little bit scary sometimes because people can write all sorts of things. Of course, you put moderation in place, but if you allow that, people can write for you. Rich image gallery, show a product from more angles, more images, and make sure that content is engaging enough, that the descriptions are not just written for search engines, they're written for people. And I think from what you can see, title, image, description, price, that's not good enough. Search engines really want to see richer experience, and they want to reward you with rich snippets. So utilizing schema.org markup to make your products displaying with rich snippets, either using star ratings or price range, using an image, is really the key, because more and more companies will start utilizing that. And when you have you have those 10 results in search, people will click on the one that has more interesting things in it, but that catches the eye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I have a question. Do you have a problem with the duplicate content?
Well, basically, like for example, we'll going to post something on the site, a new product, okay, and another vendor might just get the content of the image, then repost it in their site. So basically, the content and the links would be coming from the same URLs. Got my yep.
That's why it's good to properly tag
Yep.
using schema.org.
My problem will be sharing the same URL, although it would be coming. We just might divert the traffic going to other sites versus going to my.
Is this for one local site?
Yep.
One local site, and yet you're given
Yep. Like for
pages.
example,
Okay.
I'll post my product on my website, then somebody will going to post it in Sulit, just for example. Okay, so anything that you might suggest for us to either prevent something like that?
Prevent copying? Well, I have been a victim of that, and I still have a pending case.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, so there's no way to do it, but I think the best way is really the takedown notice, because the hosting company has no choice but to act on the complaint. If they don't act on the complaint, you can actually have them shut down. But here in the Philippines, the problem is the one that steals your data, your photos. Sometimes they're just too small to go after, right? So I guess you'll have to balance out how to do it. But I think generally, if you contact people and you tell them that, hey, that's my content, please take it down, or I can take some action against you. Generally, people take them down.
Yep.
You just have to find out who got them.
Okay.
Okay. Before we get a question from the floor, we have a question from Pam. How often or how soon do keywords experience fatigue?
It's a case-by-case basis. I think you can't treat all keywords in the same way. In our process, we go very granular. We treat each keyword with different attention. So, an interesting question in terms of how do you notice? Well, you look at the bottom line. You look at your goal conversions and your e-commerce stats in either Google Analytics or other software package. And if you drill down to a particular keyword and you notice a drop, I wouldn't necessarily attribute it to keyword fatigue or keyword trending down. It could also be that your product descriptions and your offer page is maybe fatigued itself. So, is your content engaging enough? Is your pricing right? There's all sorts of things like that. So I look at analytics. I never sort of try to make guesses. But in this case, to determine if the search volumes are dropping, you can have a look at Google Trends or Google Webmaster Tools and see how things have performed over time. But the important thing is to collect data continuously and never let any data go away. And then you can look at historical information and make your decisions that way.
Hello. For keyword fatigue, I think the most obvious indicator would be PPC. When you start the campaign, if you notice it shoot up, and then over time it just dwindles, as in for maybe 5 times less, or maybe even 10 times less. And then I guess that's the time you have to figure out what keywords to attack. That's why you always have to test the keywords. It doesn't end. it's not a one solution for all.
Yes, ma'am. One final question from the floor, and then I have one final question for the two of you.
Hello, Dan. I'm Kay. Hi.
Hi.
Site Interactive. So I'm one of the 3 SEOs here. So yeah, I have to ask you an SEO question. So I think it's too early, but not really too late to ask you this. What are your forecasts for SEO trends for 2014 for next year? Well, aside from disavows, indexes, analytics, changes in analytics as well, and Google. Aside from that, do you see any trending or like upcoming trends for SEOs for next year or next year? Yeah.
Before Dan answer that, for the information of everyone, Dan actually made a study. He put up a write-up that is his projection till 2023. So he can be able to truly answer that question for 2014.
Yes, I have an article. You can find it in Google. Just search for conversations with Google. If you search that, you'll find the article. And it literally has a projection of how Google will operate until, I think, 2050 even. So at that point, search stops. We just know what we want to know. It's a bit futuristic. But to get to bring us back to the next year, back to the future, 1 year only, 12 months. In the next 12 months, I see some really, really aggressive actions taken against what we thought in the industry was safe practices. So typically, people think, okay, I'll get 10 keywords, I'll try to get to position number 3 or position number 1, I'll do some link building, and the performance of an SEO campaign may consist of how many links you got, what position you're on, nothing to do with conversions, the bottom line, the sales, customer engagement, none of that. It was a very simple discipline, and things happen and you didn't know really why. So one at a time, Google's been cleaning up. They've cleaned up all the obvious spam, blog comment spam, link exchange was next, and then they started looking at sophisticated link schemes. They looked at blog networks. People thought, links help, so I'll build 1,000 websites and I'll link them all to my site, right? And then Google went after them, and now that they've cleaned up everything, they're going, okay, I'm a spam cop, I'm hungry, I need more work. So what am I going to go after? Any guesses as to who's next? What's the highest risk area at the moment? It's guest blogging. People think content marketing is a great idea, but marketers or SEOs have this tendency to oversimplify a concept and just factory line everything, right? So you start having services like mass guest posting, article distribution. Oh my, that's already been and gone. So 2014, Google is going to start cleaning up because there's nothing else for them to do. They've cleaned up most things. Results are pretty good. Spam is less effective. Penalties are quite harsh. So what we're dealing with here is people who did content marketing, what they called in the past. They write an article, and article's kind of like, oh, it's okay, it's nothing special. And then in the author box, where your authorship and everything is, you say, buy Nike shoes. That's in your description. So author boxes, if you have an article and you have the only link on the on that post, you're a high risk item. And what we're going to start seeing is low quality contents being targeted at the moment. 2014, we're going to see Google catch and penalize, do manual action on websites which use manipulative anchor text, manipulative links within high quality posts. You can write an epic piece, 2,000 word piece that's really informative and really good, and you're a well-known author. If you're trying to manipulate through anchor text, you will be penalized. So that's a really, really high consideration. And I think link building industry is all about guest blogging these days. Very high risk item. So if you guys are engaged in SEO process, and if what you're doing is link building, and if link building is guest blogging, if you're doing a blog spam or comment spam or things like that, you forum spam, fake profiles, that sort of stuff is history. You should already be penalized. If not, then something's wrong. So that's my prediction as one item that's of high risk and to watch out for.
Actually, that was also my nightmare. I had around, I won't say the number, but what I've been doing for the past month is cleaning up all the junk that was done in the last 6 months. All the link wheels, all the... Actually,
Geometric shapes.
yeah, all the link building. The problem with the Philippines is that when they do link building, they don't do quality link building. What they do is they do the factory style. So they hire a cheap guy, not an SEO yet. So he comes down, he sits down in the office and he goes, so what am I supposed to do? So he's given a list. Okay, you add a link here, the forum, you comment on this blog, you add an article here, there, you try to guest post here. You know, to do that for me, 100 companies is a nightmare because you'll have to clean up your junk, you'll have to disavow, and if you ask the website to take down all those the crap, they don't, because as Dan said earlier, some of them even charge to take down articles. So it's actually now a business. So link building will probably disappear in a few...
Yeah, link building has transformed. It's become link earning, which was what was meant to be in the first place. Content development, engagement on social channels, brand advocacy, building fans around the world, and making sure that your content is naturally shared and naturally earning links. I can tell you there is nothing more satisfying than you putting your heart and soul into a piece of content, whether it be a written piece or infographics are dangerous as well if you're manipulating with them. But if you have creative piece or a piece of written content and you really put your best into it, your authorship is recognized. That's another big thing that most of us will have to adopt. And people start sharing it. They link to it. They reference it. Because Google's still a very much link-based search engine. Don't be confused by all this voice search and all this mumbo-jumbo. They still have links at their foundation, and they still have social at their foundation. So all these things still count, except that cheating the system is no longer a viable option for serious businesses. If you can churn and burn, spam is still an option, because you burn one domain, you start another one. You burn that one, I call it phoenixing. So if you can afford that, you can do that. But big brands, reputable companies cannot afford to get themselves in penalty because it's a lot of work to clean up.
All right. So final words. This is something that I am very much interested in for you guys to really give insights on. Can you please tell all these people here that search marketing, does it really work? Will it really make you money? Can you really attribute conversion? Can you really attribute sales in the search marketing? Dan.
Totally unfair question because I'm massively biased. But I won't tell you concepts. I'll tell you an actual story. I'm a business owner. I started off being a single person working from my house. And I had a very large company call me up. And they're asking for my services. They say, we have budget of $5,000. My jaw dropped. Because for me, that was a lot of money. Later in the conversation, my cat said meow. Because I was at home. And they said, did I just hear a cat? Oh, we have a cat in our office. Later on, with that budget, I started up a serious company, started an office, tripled our space within span of 2 years. Now there's 60 people in the company. How did it happen? I never put any money into paid. I never did anything else but two things: branding and organic search. And I wrote a lot and I engaged on social platforms. And organic search made me look like a big brand. So the name Dejan SEO didn't exist 10 years ago. But through being visible in organic search, people thought I'm a very large company. So if you're a very large company already and you're not in search results, you're not aligning your presence. So what I'm saying is that the value of search goes way beyond just these clicks. So be there, or somebody small will overtake, because it's possible.
Yeah, being online levels the playing field, big or small. So if you don't do it right, then you're not going to make it. Whether you're big or small, or you have tons of cash to throw around, it's not going to be worth your time.
Yeah, thanks guys again. Search marketing works. So again, thanks guys. Again, thank you guys for listening. Let's give these guys a warm round of applause.
All right, thank you very much to Dan Petrovic, Salcedo, and Anton Sheker.